George W. Bush, in his 2006 State of the Union address, he said,
America is addicted to oil.
I don't like the word addiction. It's a necessary evil. There is a word called addiction. We have an addiction to oil. Matter of fact, we produce only about 13 million barrels of oil a day in the United States, and we need over 20. So we do need a lot of oil, and our refineries in the United States can't even handle all the oil that we produce here. So we've got a big need. We talk about the 4 T's, with Trump, tariffs, taxes, Teslas, what's going to happen on demand and what's going to happen with all the other great 4 T's that's going on. When we just talk about the need for oil, we're going to need it for a long time.
Hi, and welcome to Open Book. I am your host, Anthony Scaramucci, and joining us today is R.Young. JR is an entrepreneur podcast host. I've done his show. Thank you for having me on. He's a philanthropist. He's an author, and the title of the book is The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing, which I think is a very topical book for where we are right now and where we're going to be for the next 50 years, Jay. So we'll talk about that as well. Yeah. But it's great to have you on. Before we get into the book, regale us a little bit with your background, your upbringing, how you got into this space, and how you started your show.
Yeah, great. Thanks. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate that. Well, I love reciprocating people on each show. I think that's well,
awesome. We're doing a home and away. You put me on your show. I want to bring you on. I want people to learn about what you do and your book.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, because I'm 4th generation oil and gas guy. So my great grandfather, my great grandfather and great grandmother, A.K. Turner and Grandma Birdie, they had 12 kids. Back then there was no TV, I guess, so they had 12. They had 12 kids. If you're a man, you're in the oil business, and if you're a woman, you're married to somebody in the oil business. So, man, it was just all in our family, all our reunions, everything. All we talked about was the oil business.
Hey, everyone, it's Anthony Scaramucci here with some straight talk. Let me tell you, we've got 85% of our viewers who haven't hit the subscribe button yet. What's up with that? It hurts. Listen, I made my career by going all in. Right now, only 15% of our viewers are part of our subscribed family. So please take action. This helps us book more amazing guests. Hit subscribe, join our community, and let's turn these numbers upside down. Now back to the show.
He grew up, landed his last 30 years in the business was in West Texas, Permian Basin, back in the day when there wasn't all the big fracking going on, or just there were shallow oil and gas wells, but he grew up there. I spent a lot of time with my grandfather. My grandfather growing up was also in the business, and I spent a lot of weekends with him out in the oil field. As soon as he let me drive his pickup, which is the old 3-speed on the column pickup, as soon as he let me drive his pickup, I was with him, and I'd go, and he would, every time we'd go by one of those oil wells, he would tell me to slow down. And he'd roll his window down the old-fashioned way with the crank, and he would listen to that oil well to see if there was anything going on with it or any noises that would, weren't normal. So I spent a lot of time there, and then after school, I went into the stock business at first, because when I was going through school in the early '80s and the mid '80s, man, oil and gas was not very favorable, and prices had gone from
$10 a barrel, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and we could not make money. And my dad, who'd spent some time in the business, got out and told me to stay out, so I did for the first 5 years. And then in 1990, I decided to get into it. I'd been in the stock business. I thought real estate or oil and gas. I decided at that point, let's go into oil and gas. And I did. And it's been incredible. I don't know where I'd be if I'd been in the real estate business, but hey, I'm in the oil business and I love it. And we raise money for funds, and we drill. We're drilling. We're drill baby drill right now.
Right, so well. Listen, I think it's important for people, even environmentalists, non-environmentalists, whatever stripe you are. We use energy, and our industrial society has been set up to be reliant on fossil fuels, and it's going to be a part of our lives whether we like them or not. Yeah. And by the way, I want to get your reaction to this, because I have a lot of friends that own Teslas. Again, I am a fan of Elon Musk's. I'm also a private owner of SpaceX. But an electric vehicle is generating energy, and the energy is being produced by a electrical generation plant. Most of those plants are either coal-fired, natural gas-fired, entities. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah,
So the
you're right.
the energy is coming from oil and gas, whether you're using it at an electric outlet or not. And so tell us a little bit about that situation. You're from Texas, so make the case for oil and gas.
Yeah, well, true. I appreciate that, Anthony. I tell you, the big thing is what I look at, and what I think a lot of other economists look at is your demand for oil, and when's the demand for oil going to start going down? And people say 5 years, 10 years. Goldman Sachs, whatever your old company you worked with, they say, yeah, hey, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the demand for oil is going to go down, but not until then, because Teslas do use a lot of natural gas. They use a lot of oil. There's tires on those. We don't want those tires to be $50,000 a tire if we don't have oil and gas. So we definitely do. And I know that George W. Bush in his 2006 State of the Union address, he said, we have an addiction to oil. And I want to, hey, I'm sober 30 years. So I don't like the word addiction, but it's a necessary evil. There is a word called addiction. We have an addiction to oil. Matter of fact, we produce only about 13 million barrels of oil a day in the United States, and we need over 20. So we do need a lot of oil, and our refineries in the United States can't even handle all the oil that we produce here. So we've got a big need. I don't really feel like that with population. I do know there's we talk about the four T's, with Trump, tariffs, taxes, Teslas, what's going to happen on demand, and what's going to happen with all the other great 4 T's that's going on. I know that's probably a 12 episode podcast by itself. Talk about that. But when we just talk about the need for oil, we're going to need it for a long time, especially for my lifetime. And
put your investor hat on for us for a moment.
Yeah.
And let's talk about our dollars and cents. The book is called The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing. Why should we have a piece of our portfolio in oil and gas investments?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And then how do you do it? Is it through syndication? Yeah. Is it buying the majors? Is it buying stocks or bonds? How best to do it?
Yeah. And the reason why I wrote the book is because I had a lot of my friends that wanted to invest in oil and gas. And they'd come to me and they go, I got 100 grand, 200, whatever. And I'd say, oh, hey, yeah, great. Let's do it. And I said, I really do feel good about this project. And if we do this and this, we're going to make money, and I didn't know this, I did. And then I kept trying to do better. And I'm like, you know what? This doesn't work. This philosophy of just drilling a couple of wells and letting it go isn't really going to work. And they may or may not get their money back, but it may take 3 to 5 years. So, a lot of investors they like the tax benefits. We have 100% tax write-off with our funds and our projects. So they like the write-off, but then they also like to make money. So what I did is I thought through this after decades of being in the business, and I'm like, okay, I'll kind of walk you through our $35 million project that we have. It's a 5-well project. We're going to bring in $35 million, and we're going to go drill 5 wells. And then after we do that, we'll send out monthly revenue checks. Clients get 100% write-off, probably 80% write-off the first year. They get monthly income off that investment. And then after that, we'll take that asset after we've drilled those 5 wells, and we'll take that to a bank and we'll say, hey, we've got PDP, which is a producing property of X. And they'll say, okay, here's some money to go drill some more wells. So my goal is to turn $35 million into $100 million. How do you do that? Well, you do it by using leverage in a way that you're not hurting the investor. You're sending out monthly revenue checks to them, so they'll get their money back in a few years just by the monthly income. But you also want to create value and explode that value. Maybe not explode's the right word, but just to increase the value of that asset so you can sell it. So you have to have leverage. You need income, monthly income, but you also have to divest it. We talk about at King Operating, we talk about ADD, which is not necessarily the Adderall, attention deficit disorder, which a lot of us entrepreneurs definitely have. Anthony, we can talk about that.
Well, but I confess to that. That's for sure.
But it's called ADD because we acquire, develop, and divest, right? We acquire the asset, but it's got to be a great asset in a great area, and you have to develop it. How do you do that? Well, you do it with first equity, 100% equity. We go in and drill 5 good wells in a good and like right now we're drilling in the middle of 2 billion barrels of oil that's already been produced. It's not like we're going out and you're looking off the shore of, wherever and trying to make a huge discovery. You can't make money there. I mean, you can, but it's like a 1 out of 10 shot. I mean, the batters in the Major League Baseball, they bat better than 100. So, and that's not what oil and gas is. Oil and gas is going into an area that's developed, and by drilling wells and using that as leverage. You don't use it for leverage first; they won't let you. But clients like 100% income. They like tax write-offs. So you take the money in first, you drill the wells, use that as collateral. Do that 2, 3, 4 times, and your money turns into your dollars can turn into from 35 million to 100 million.
What are the tax benefits going on? You write a lot about that in your book. Tell us.
Yeah.
Take us through. You've made the case for the investment. You made the case for the cash flow thesis, but tell us a little bit about the tax benefits.
Yeah. Well, like last year, I was talking to my CPA, and he says, you need to make sure you invest in oil and gas. And I said, well, or invest in something because you got a tax problem. I said, okay, hey, what if I lowered my taxes by $300,000 or $400,000? He said, oh, that'd be great. How do you do that? And I said, well, obviously he knows because he's been around me a while. But what I did is I invested $500,000 in our fund at the end of last year. Okay, so I'll get a write-off of $400,000 because it's about 80% of a $500,000 investment, and I'll take $400,000 write-off. So if I made $1 million last year, let's say I don't pay taxes on the $1 million, I'll pay taxes on $600,000 last year. So that'll save me considerably in my tax bill. Come on April 15th. Well, we don't pay tax on April 15th, but you get what I'm saying. So yep. I'm trying to decrease my adjusted gross income down to a good dollar amount, and so that's kind of a roundabout way on how we look at it, because we do know we're gonna pay taxes, and we just want to lower that tax bill.
Yeah, no, listen, but it's also there is an incentive as it relates to the way the tax system is set up to get into the industry. What would you avoid? What are some of the things you would avoid in this industry, and who's the ideal investor?
Yeah, good question. Very good question. Matter of fact, that's exactly the reason why I wrote the book. I wanted to get our name out there and just tell people, hey, man, those guys that call you on the phone, all they're looking for is one thing, and they're looking for your money, and they don't care if you make money or not. Maybe I shouldn't say it like that, because I come from that industry. I learned that. I know it. I've been on that side of the phone where I'm calling people up, and I want them to make money. I do. I really want them to, because I want them to come back over and over and over again. But the chances are really good on any retail oil and gas deal, they're not going to make money. They're just not going to make money. That's why we restructured a retail project that you could get in and increase the value over a short amount of time by using leverage, going into a fund and doing that. That's the reason why I wrote the book, because I wanted people to know, hey, Forbes, I got a Forbes book, and I wanted people to know, hey, you know what? I've got people that that want to decrease their tax dollars, but don't do it just for the taxes. I know I write about that, but people, that's the catch, because people in New York or California, we don't have a state income tax here in Texas, but still a lot of people in Texas, they make money, they want to decrease their adjusted gross income. So we have fund of funds that are participating in the projects now. We have high net worth individuals, anybody with a tax situation that like I said, don't do it for the taxes, but hey, if you're going to do oil and gas, and if you want to diversify, find somebody like us. And I don't know anybody else like us, but if there is, God bless them. I'm just glad that they are, because I stood up in front of a few hundred people the other day in a conference, and there were some oil and gas promoters out there, and I said, hey, don't invest with all these oil and gas promoters out there unless they know what the hell they're doing, because you can just you do it, and you hope you make money and you see your check, because the wells that you produce or participate in, they decline. Those wells decline you may be producing 20% of a barrel of oil of what you did the first day. In 1 year, it may decline 80% the first year. Well, good luck on getting your money back. And it's not, I'm not saying it's a bad deal, but just you have to use leverage in that, and you also have to divest.
I think it makes great. I think it makes great sense. I want to go to renewables for a second, because there's an angle to renewables coincident to oil and gas. You write about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us a little bit about that. What are some of your expectations there?
Yeah. And what a lot of companies just came out and said, hey, okay, we're not going to really spend a lot of money on that because it's hard to make money on that. So even though it makes sense for the economy, and Biden was really 100%, I mean, he was like, yes, let's do this and let's do this and let's cut off oil and gas production and all. It's tough to make money on renewables. It's tough to have alternative types of energy other than what we already know. We already have the infrastructure set up. We already have a lot of, it's a $4 trillion industry. It is right on, like number 7th industry in oil and gas. So we're not going to go away anytime soon, but also renewables. It's hard to catch up, and it's hard to become profitable. But I was on Routers or something the other day, or somebody asked me questions about this, and I said, well, hey, 2 reasons. Number one, politics. People love to hear about the politics of renewables and not using as much oil and gas. But number one, then number 2 is, does it make sense financially, or can you make money?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You have a great show, Jay. I've been plugged into it now. One of my friends introduced me to you virtually. Actually, before I met you because I was tuned into your show. Tell us about your show, the 𝗕young Show, which of course I was a recent guest on. How'd you get it started? How do you think about curating your guests? What are the topics that you like discussing?
Yeah, as healthy, wealthy, and wise, I guess. Hey, we may talk about the Bible. We may talk about your success. We may talk about what's going on with you. We do have a Wednesday or Monday, 3:00 Central. We may talk about only oil and gas and what's going on. I may have my Landman on, which isn't Billy Bob Thornton. Billy Bob, if you're out there, you're welcome to come on the show anytime. Mm-hmm. We'd love to have you.
Do you watch that show? Is that show accurate depiction of the industry?
Yeah, that's good. You can also watch me on TikTok. I'm doing the true false Landman questions on it. Like Jerry Jones. I mean, you mentioned on my show. You mentioned that the New York Mets. They need. Cohen needs to let some of the decision making go. Well, hey, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, unfortunately, and Jerry Jones doesn't do that. But he was on the show, and he mentioned, like, I drilled 4 wells in Northern California, near outside Palo Alto, and I made enough money to buy the Dallas Cowboys. That was false. There's a Boobs and Babes coffee shop that outside that you drive through that oil field workers starting at 5:30 in the morning, they stop. Then that's true. There are places like that in Odessa with women in bikinis handing out coffee first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. That'd have been a great entrepreneurial deal. And there's just, I think it's a lot of Hollywood, but it's like 30-40% of it's true, and then everything else is kind of compounded. Like wells blowing up. Wells don't blow up like that. But there's a lot of good stuff on it. But it was really good in the industry to see the oil and gas industry, and we're using a lot of that material, and to help tell more people about what's going on in the industry, and how can you invest in oil and gas. Hey, I'm not telling you should. I think you should invest in oil and gas, but I'm not telling you to invest in oil and gas. But if you do, I think you should really look at our product very, very hard. But yes, I think it's really a great show.
So let's go to let's go to Jerry for a second, if you don't mind me asking, because I love him. He's been at my conference. You and I talked about the SALT conference.
Yeah.
And I thought his depiction on the show and the story that he told, which he told at our conference, by the way, so I know what Jerry said to John Hamm and Landman is true, and it wasn't acting, because that was Jerry telling the story, and I'm sure he's told it many, many times. And so the question I have, though, is controversial. I got to ask it, though. Okay. because I love the Cowboys from a distance. I'm a Roger Staubach fan. I remember Drew Pearson. I grew up with all these people watching them in the games, Tom Landry, etc. And Jerry won twice without being involved in the football operations. He won twice. He's been involved with the football operations for 31 or 2 years since he won the Super Bowl twice.
Mm-hmm.
What is the stubbornness there? What is the definition of insanity is you repeat the same thing over and over again without, you're expecting a different result, but you're not going to get one. Okay. So
Right.
go ahead. Give me the brain chemistry there. You're a student of people.
Yeah. I think it's more about family, and he says in the show, and he is the tear in his eye, and he is very emotional, and it is true. If you go up to the Star here in Frisco, up north of where we are today, but if you go up north, you'll see Jerry Jr. there. You'll see Steven. You'll see Charlotte. You'll see them. He does talk about family, and he is 100% engrossed in family. And every time you see him out, he's with his family. I mean, it's like there's no question about that. But it's like Magic Johnson, after the Redskins, or I'm sorry, not the Redskins, the Commanders. Yeah, Commanders. When they won one of those playoff games, he says, "You know what? We gave the ownership. We got new ownership, which gave the coach, which gave the GM. But Jerry just loves getting his hands right in the middle of everything, and he won't let go. And it's like he'd much rather deal with his family, and he's done extremely well financially, 10, 15 billion, whatever he's worth. But he just won't let it go family wise. He wants his family to be there, and it's all about, is this for business or pleasure or family or whatever, and he just won't let go.
All right, I get it. I just have to ask. Okay, so Jay, how do people find you? What's your Instagram? What's your social media?
Yeah, R.Young. If you look if you Google Anthony Scaramucci's best friend, new best friend, that's R.Young.
Okay.
No, but
so on Twitter, you're at 𝗕young.
𝗕young text. Yeah, I don't have a lot of Twitter. That's one thing I'm really concerned about doing better on is the Twitter. But I've got I'm on Twitter. I've got 𝗕young TX on Twitter.
All right.
We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all the other. If you look under kingoperating.com, that's where we are as well. I did have 𝗕young.com, but you can find me there and write in. I'd love to reply back to readers to find out what they think. What can we be doing better? How can we help you?
All right, good stuff. I end my podcast every week with 5 words. We go through your book. We went through a little bit of your show. I'm going to list the 5 words. You're going to give me a reaction to the word. It's almost like a Rorschach test. You can give me a sentence, you give me a word, whatever comes to your mind. I say the word risk. You say what?
Oil and gas. Mitigating risk.
Mitigating risk. Okay, so when you hear the word risk, you think risk mitigation, and you think oil and gas.
Yeah.
What about reward?
Yeah, oil and gas.
Okay.
The new way, the new model.
Okay, and that's really the central tenets of your book. Okay, so let's go over these. Then you're going to be able to predict the last 3. I say oil. You say what?
I just say it's definitely a needed product, controversial, but also a very needed demand. I think about the peak demand, what's going on, and how long we're going to need oil. We're going to need oil for a long period of time, and I just think it's not going away anytime soon.
So it's funny because when you say the word oil, I think the most important commodity in the world. That's what it is to me.
Yeah.
Everybody needs it. You and I couldn't be talking to each other right now. We didn't have it. We wouldn't have the electricity on.
Yeah.
I say the word gas, a little different from oil. So what do you say when I say the word gas?
Yeah, I think about natural gas instead of a tank or a gallon of gas for your car, but I think about natural gas, and I think that it's a great product, and we're starting to LNG export a lot of natural gas here. So it's a clean burning fuel. It's something that definitely needed, and there's going to be a lot more demand for it because of the, us liquefying it, and there's a lot of, Trump's opening up some of the ports in down so we can export it. So I think there's a good need for it, and I love drilling for natural gas because they're so much easier than oil because there's not as many moving parts. But that's just on my side of would you rather drill an oil well or a gas well? I grew up with oil wells and pumping units, but gas wells are very, very easy to drill, and there is also a big need for that as well in the United States.
Okay, and more energy efficient than oil, or no?
Yeah, you mean cost wise? Yeah, because there's not, like I said, there's not as many moving parts, and there's not pumping units and downhole motors. There's rods, there's tubing, there's all these different products, and you have to and gas, as you can imagine, gas coming out of the ground and how fast it comes out of the ground is a lot better, more efficient to come out and just go right down the pipeline into and goes right straight down the pipeline instead of oil, which comes out in a liquid, and it has to go up and has to go into a barrel, and then you have to transport it out of a barrel, and your pumper has to, you have to have a pumper that goes by there every day and measures how much oil is in the tanks. Well, not today as much. Most of our wells are by Skylink, but a lot of them are. But natural gas is just so much easier. It's so much easier to drill and operate than oil.
All right, investing. I say the word investing. You say what?
I say I want to put together the best investment, oil and gas investment product available for investors to come in. I mean, for people that want to put in, less than $100 million, we have a $100 million fund right now. We have a $35 million fund, but I want to put together the best oil and gas investment vehicle that I can for investors. That's my legacy.
All right. And what's next for you, Jay?
I think after this, after being on your show, man, who knows, right? I mean, sky's the limit. No.
Oh yeah,
my kids to grow up. I need to read the Bible every day, which I do. And I want to be a better person. I want people, it's not about respecting me. I want people just to listen to me because I want to give plenty of knowledge out for not only the 𝗕young show was originally for the 16 to 22-year-old. So I could tell them stories about people like you. How did you get to where you are? I mean, man, you've been extremely successful.
Hard work,
there's a
lot
of, a lot of
learning,
things there.
Learning.
Yeah. How can we fall on our face and get back up, which we talked about on the show, which I really love. How can we do that? That's what I want to do. Is I want more people. My wife says, what are you doing this 𝗕young show for? What do you, what? And I said, I want people to have learning experiences. I want to know that, hey, you know what, if somebody ever said, hey, I wanted to go into real estate, or if I wanted to go into whatever the case may be, they could listen on the 𝗕young show and be resourceful, be thoughtful, be something that they would appreciate.
Well, I really appreciate you being on with me today. The title of your book is The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing. It's by R.Young, who's also the founder and anchor of the 𝗕young Show. And I really appreciate you being on. Thanks, Jay.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much. Hey, great. Appreciate it. I look forward to staying in touch.
All right. Hey, thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, here's another one right up here that you might like.